show it again. Maybe nobody's coming.
You act like they're here. Go.
Hi, this is Bobbi Sukup from Quilter's Candy Shop. And today we're going to do a demo on how to put the bunny together. The bunny is from Funky Friends pattern. This bunny I have blown up to 140%. The bunny that we made earlier was at 125%, which is a pretty good size, especially for a little kid. This bunny was made out of the Galaxy with a little bit of frost elderberry for the ears, the tail, and the bottom of the feet. Today I'm working with, icicle sorbet, and then I just used a plain white for my other. So that's what we're working with today. So, alrighty. I want to give you a little sneak preview of what we will have coming. This is a pattern that we came across. It is to make a hat and mittens.
Hold the mittens up a little higher.
They're reversible, and so they have a cuff. I think if I were going to do it over, I would have done two different things on it. Probably want them coordinating though, but I would have done two different things because the hat as well as the mittens are reversible. So I think it would be a lot more fun if there was something just a little bit different on the inside. But talk about warm and soft. These are really it. We'll show them again in a little bit, but today we're just going to get started. So first off,
just a second. Somebody says there's a very blurry picture. Is it? It's not clear. It's fuzzy.
Which picture?
What?
On me or on the? So let's switch to this and see if this doesn't clear it up.
Let's switch to the. We're
going to switch to the camera, the work camera, and then hopefully that'll be a lot more clear because we know it was clear to start with. Are we good?
Is that better? Ask him if it's better.
Is that better? I can stand up and look at it too. Looks good. Alrighty. So if you can't hear me, just let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep talking as I go. So hopefully by now your pattern pieces are cut out. I clip mine together with the piece because I like to look at the piece as I'm sewing, especially on the white, because the white I don't mark. I don't mark like the fold line. I don't mark that it's the ear because that will come through on my white. So other colors, I mark everything up, as you can see. I do it lightly because this was a light fabric, but I do mark all the little letters like D, G, B, A. So, but on the white, I don't mark any of that, as I told you in the earlier. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a bunny ear of the color and a bunny ear of your contrast, and we're going to clip those together. I use clips. My clips want to fly away. I use clips as opposed to a lot of pins because I just think they're easier to slide off. But this will be my first sewing, so I do use a pin there because it's too hard to.
There you go.
It's too hard to. It's easier to put the foot feet down, or put the foot down on pins rather than clips. So I've been told that I kindergarten clip, probably, but I like to make sure it's going to go together okay. So that's why I do that. And then I'll just go around and clip all the way to the end. I'll probably clip both of the ears at the same time because then I'm ready to sew. So the ears are the first thing that we're going to do.
Are
And
the
again,
pretty sides touching? Yes.
yes, I'm sorry, right sides together. It's always right sides together as we're sewing. All right. Get one here on the end. All right, so I'm going to set that one aside, and then I'm going to put these together. Right sides together, one white, one icicle. And again, I'm going to sew, I'm going to pin the first couple of, or the first inch or so. And I pinned straight in. Then I'll come down and I catch the tip so that I make sure. And then if you clip about halfway in between, and then just fill in with clips. Yeah, we always sew right sides together whenever we're sewing on these patterns. While I'm pinning this, I'll tell you a little bit. I really like sewing with this Minky because it's so forgiving. It's a whole lot different than sewing with cottons where you have to match up every point. If the points don't totally match up with this Minky, then it won't matter. It just doesn't show. Alrighty. So we'll stick in one more clip. And now we're ready to sew. So we've got both ears ready to sew. We've got it pinned at the very beginning so that when I sew that very beginning.
Asking a stitch length?
Oh, I'm sorry. I use a 3. When I quilt, I use a 1.8 or a 1/8. But when I sew with Minky, I use a 3.2. I also have polyester thread in here. I just use my old quilting thread, and I use a stretch needle in here. Whenever I start a new project, I start with a new needle. It doesn't matter whether I'm starting a quilting project or starting a Minky project. I always start with a new needle. Needles are cheaper than machines, I figure. So if you take care of your machine, nothing's harder on a machine than a needle with a burr. So I always start with a fresh needle. Now, like on this, you can see it doesn't totally match up. If I were quilting, that would really bother me. On this Minky, it doesn't bother me because it's going to go together fine. So now I'm ready. I like to sew with the Biani. I'm going to drop my foot down, and I'm going to sew about a 1/4 inch seam, which to me is right in the middle of my, can you see in there?
What? Yeah, you can just about. Yeah.
So it's right about in the middle of my walking foot. Oh, you sure want to use a walking foot too. So if you have a walking foot, mine is part of my machine, or it's one of the feet that are built into my machine. Always start in a little bit or else it'll suck your fabric down in. And then I just start sewing. I sew forward, and now I'm going to back it up. Whoa. Once in a while, my machine wants to get ahead of me. And then I'll just pull as I go. But I like to use the Biani because it keeps those two sides together after I've pulled my clip. Unlike my finger, which I've sewn together before also. not a pretty sight. And I just slide off the clips as I'm going.
You asked if you were sewing with polyester threads, and you said
yes. Yes, polyester thread, stretch needle. I didn't know that. I made.
And it's in top and bottom, right? Bobbin and
yes.
top.
Yes. Yeah, I filled a bobbin with polyester thread. I made minky blankets for all of my family one year for Christmas. And I didn't understand why I would sew the seams and then you could pop the seams. If you use polyester thread and a stretch needle, you're not going to have that problem. And I'll show you that at the end of this. You don't have that problem of where the cotton thread might pop. And I use good cotton thread. I use Orifil, which I think is one of the strongest cotton threads there are out there. And then I'll just swivel around here.
Did you know me 6,700, isn't it?
6,600. I wore out a 6,500 and then gave it to my daughter-in-law. And this is a 6,600. I'm a Janome fan, although I do have a Singer. I have a Bernina. I have a featherweight that Margie gave me. I always come back to Janome. I like the way it sews. It sews really fast. We're on this.
It has a built-in walking foot.
Yeah, it has a built-in walking foot, which I really like. And then when we come down to the end, we're going to sew off and then I'm going to back it up because I'm going to be turning this right side out. So, and it also cuts your thread, although it does not like polyester thread. So it'll leave me hanging a lot of times with a long thread. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to look at the other side and I want to make sure that I have at least 1/8 of an inch all the way down. It caught there, but that won't matter. But I want to make sure that I have enough caught. All right, so now we'll do the other one. And again, I start in a little bit. And then you'll back it up. And right now we're just sewing the ears. The ears are the first thing that get done on this little bunny. The ears are probably one of the cutest things on this little bunny. And I just go around, like I said. If you want more pointy ears, you can always stop at the top and make them more pointy. But I just slide off my clips as I come to them. Yeah, it always leaves me this long hanger where it doesn't do that if I'm sewing other kinds of thread. Now again, I want to check this side and make sure I have at least 1/8 of an inch. One thing about Minky is it will not fray. So if you have like, oh, let me show you the narrowest I've got. Oh, say like right in here.
Bring it up a little closer.
Like right in here. If you have that 1/8 of an inch, it's not going to fray on you. Okay, so now we're going to want to turn our bunny ears right side out.
They're asking about a walking foot. Do you recommend they use a walking foot?
Yes, yes. I would use a walking foot because it just helps. It helps not.
You need to
it helps
closer into the camera.
It makes your fabrics flow more even. The other thing I like about the Biani is, and I won't do it all now, but you can take that Biani.
You can't see you.
And go along that seam, and it'll fluff out all that around the side where it caught up in it. But see, now we have bunny ears. And I just turn them out with my finger at this point. Although the bunny ears, you're not going to stuff. The bunny ears are just going to be flat. Now, it showed on there that there was that you needed to fold the bunny ears. So we're going to fold the bunny ears in on that spot. And then for this, I'm going to pin because it'll just hold it a little better. And the other bunny ear gets the same thing.
I'm checking to see if everybody's getting their bunny ear sewn.
Okay.
Or if they're, if they're just watching, that's fine.
And one thing I like to do, because it helps it lay flat, and Teresa Coates is one I learned this from, is if you'll zigzag this edge, it not only makes that bunny ear a little stronger, but it also makes it lay flat as you put it in the seam. So I'm going to switch over to a zigzag, and I'm going to go up to a 5, which is about the biggest zigzag you can get, because all I'm trying to do is flatten and catch this. It doesn't matter whether you go off the end on this, or it doesn't matter whether you back up, because all we're doing is catching this. And see, I've just zigzagged that top. Now that's going to sit flat. Like I said, my thread cutter doesn't like to cut polyester thread. It says, "What are you doing?" So I'm going to do that with this one too.
Letitia said her fabric moved, so she's taking her thread out and she'll rewatch.
Okay. Well, shoot.
And Sharon says she sees now she wants to make a bunny.
Sure. I really like this little bunny. I talked Margie into the bunny because I think the bunny is pretty, it works for a little boy or a little girl.
Bunny has a character to it.
Yeah, and this little bunny has a character to it. So now I've got the ears. The ears are ready to, and you just set those aside. So we're done with the ears. So until we put them on the face. All right, so now we're going to grab the cheek pieces, and we're going to grab cheek 2. All right, we can set I just throw the patterns back because I, of course, reuse them. And we're going to grab the 2 cheek pieces, which is cheek 1 and cheek 2. And it says we're going to sew A and B together. So again, I'm going to put 1 pin at the beginning because that helps me. And then I'm just going to clip the rest. My clips kind of get to be a mess. I try to keep putting them back on my arm, but that doesn't always work either. So we're just going to clip this bunny, or the ears, the cheek 1, cheek 2. And we're going to do the same thing with this other one. This is cheek. We're going to sew A to B. And see how we're matching up the B's? Here's the B, here's the B, here's an A, here's an A. So that's what we're wanting to match up, is A to B, or A to A, B to B.
And show them how you have the writing on there.
Yeah. So when I did my patterns, I wrote on my A and my B, which was on the pattern. I also write them on the back because to me it's hard to flip it over, and like on this one, and this is what's on the front, is the A and the B and the 2 dots. And when I flip it over, I just hold it up to the light and I'll write A, B, and 2 dots. And then I always put my straight of grain too, because I'm going to cut these. And I always put the arrow because I want to know where that grain is. It doesn't really matter on, I mean, it really doesn't matter on this one because there's so much different variation, but it really matters on one that's got
like a C3.
Like a C3 because, well, like on my bunny ears. I wanted my bunny ears to be like this. Otherwise, you can see they definitely have a direction. So
what do you write with?
I write with and I'm not sure if I brought any. I just use let's see if I have anything in my bag. I just use a Sharpie, and I have different colors of Sharpies. I don't use a friction pen because it'll wear off, but I just use a plain old Sharpie. And not this one, because this one's a fine point. And I've never had luck with these fine points. So I just get a plain old Sharpie. That's what I used on this. Now, as you can see on this one, I tried to write really lightly because this is a light colored fabric. So I sure didn't want to risk it showing on the front. If I'm sewing, like when I sewed the purple, I didn't have to worry about that. So I just wrote cheek. But I always write on them what they are, unless I'm using a white fabric, and then I tend to not.
Have you written on anything on black? Would you use a silver?
I use a silver Sharpie when I'm on too dark a fabric. The silver works really well, and even like a red will show on a black. Even the purple was really dark, so I used a silver on it.
And so they asking what you used to cut your Cuddle with?
Oh. You have to bear with me. I have a sinus infection that I've had for 4 weeks. This is what I use. And the reason I like to use it is, let me see if I can find my fabric. And as I'm cutting this, I try to get up in there, as you can see with my scissors, and I try to not get as much, any more nap than I have to. So if I'm going with the grain, it's really nice because it'll cut. Now, if you're going against the grain, you don't have that option. But I make small little cuts as I'm cutting. And that's why I like these scissors, or any scissors that you have that are sharp, clear to the tip, because you want to use your tip as you're cutting. And again, then when you get with the grain, boy, it's nice because you can run right under there. And then, of course, I vacuum it because it likes to. But if the smaller the smaller the clip with your scissors, the less mess you're going to have, because you can kind of get up under there, under that fuzz, if you clip with short little spouts or short little cuts. All right, so I've worked with my cheek 1 and cheek 2, so I'm going to set them over there on my ears. And now I'm going to sew this. I'm going to sew A to B. That's what my pattern says, to sew A to B. One thing about these funky friends patterns is she's really good telling you what to sew. So if you sew from A to B like she tells you, then you're doing the right thing. And again, I'm going to start out just in a little bit. I'm going to pull my pin, but especially where I'm sewing something small, I'm going to use my bianny. Oh, and then that's the other thing. Don't forget to turn your zigzag back off and go to your stitch 1. I do that so often. And then you have to go in here and clip these threads. I even wrote a note in my notes to say, remember to go back from zigzag to your straight stitch. But I do it a lot. Mainly because my mind is always racing about other things in life besides what I'm doing. That's the nice thing about sewing an animal, is it's not like sewing a quilting project. You can kind of think of other things. So I'm going back to my stitch 1, and I have to remember to raise my stitch length up again. Teresa Coates says you can sew this between 3 and 3/5. I kind of like either 3 or 3/2. That's where I keep mine. All right, now it's going to sew a little better. Let me find my. The other thing you can use, and I'm sure, I thought I got it on, is a purple thing. I like my purple thing too. Oh, here it is. So this works too. The problem with the purple thing is it's just not as strong holding that fabric. I like this because it will hold that, this Biani stylus will hold that in there. I've also been known to use a ripper, which I don't use a ripper in my life. Not that I don't make mistakes, but I just don't use a ripper. It's not what I use when I'm ripping. I have a very bad habit of using my cutter. And it is a bad habit. Now, I always tell my girls when I'm teaching a class or when I'm teaching people to sew that if you're not ripping, you're not sewing fast enough. Everybody rips. So never feel like it's embarrassing to rip because, and everybody makes mistakes. It's easy to make mistakes as you're going. The nice thing about sewing with Cuddle is you've got this curve here. And of course, I want to check my other side. But the nice thing is you don't have to clip. If you're making this with cotton, then you should go back and clip it so that the curves will lay nice. You don't have to worry about that with Cuddle. So, but like I said, my machine likes to leave these long threads. So now we'll sew the other cheeks together. Again, excuse my cough. Every day I think, man, today I'm better. And every day it's not. But I taste my food, so I know it's not COVID. I wish I didn't taste food, then maybe it wouldn't taste so good. Because I like to eat. And I always back up and go at the beginning because I don't like it to come apart at the end. Yeah, I see this little deal. Man, that ticks me off. All right, so now my cheeks are put together. So I have, and you can see they're opposite because I cut them out opposite. So as you can see, they're opposite. The cheek 1 and cheek 2 are opposite each other. All right, so our next directions say, oops, I made a copy of them so I could write on them. All right, so it says fold the face piece in half and sew the dart. So here's my face piece, and it has tons of directions on it. And I only cut 1. So as you can see, it has tons of stuff on it. The thing I always do is I mark my line all the way down on my dart, and that's where I know how far to sew. So this will be strictly a pinned operation because there isn't much to it. And I want to mark the end of my dart so I know where to sew to. And then I'll just catch 1 more in there just for the heck of it. But again, I'm putting right sides together. And now I'm just sewing my dart, which was right up here, T to T. All righty. And then I'm going to aim for this pin down here. But I'm going to pull it because I don't like to hit pins. I'm really funky about pins and needles, and again, I check both sides, make sure it's put together. And what I wanted to show you was, oh, let's do this one. If this was cotton thread, you could break that seam. But the nice thing about polyester thread is it has give to it. So you're not going to break that seam. All right, so let's clip that thread off. All right, so now we've sewn that little piece. So our directions say that we want to join the cheek 1, cheek 2 to the face pieces. It says pin and sew cheek 1 and cheek 2 to the face piece, matching A and the dots. All right, so I've got A and the dots. Okay, so if you see on here, we've got 1 dot, 2 dots, and A. Now, most of the time when you're sewing, it's not always going to be a straight sew. But first of all, I'm going to match A up here, and I'm going to clip it. And I know oops, that was the wrong side, because see, 1 dot and 2 dots. So that's the wrong side. So we're going to flip this around and put it on the other side. And that will match up. So we're going to put A again together. A goes right on that seam. And we have the 2 dots down here. See, 2 dots, 2 dots. It's crucial because if you sew the wrong piece, then you get to rip. And I don't mind ripping cotton, but man, I don't like ripping Minky. I don't know why. It just seems like it's a little harder to do.
Nancy asked if you can use embroidery polyester thread.
I would bet, because I use polyester thread from my quilting machine. I used to have a quilting machine. I had a, what do you call it? Robotic quilting machine. And all of this thread is from my quilting machine that I use. I think it's just the strength. That's what Teresa Coates says, is it's just the strength that you're looking for. And like I said, I believe, I'm going to put one more pin in here because I want to match up these corners. I sew with Aurifil, which I think is probably the strongest thread I've ever used. Now I'm going to pop that out of there, but I'm going to use my, so that I get a good, then I'll take it off, and then hopefully it'll go. And I don't sew over pins. I know a lot of people do, and I know if you sew carefully, you can do that. I'm just always real leery about sewing over pins, mainly because I've snapped a needle or two sewing over pins. So it can't be good. And I'm always afraid I'm going to get a little piece of that pin down in my machine, which would never be good. Okay, so I want to match those up good, and I'll use my stylus to match those up good. And now I'm going to back it up. All right, and I want to check the other side, and I have plenty on the other side, and it won't matter. I mean, that won't matter. All right, so I'm going to throw that, and leave that face here for a minute. All right, so now we're going to match up the other side. We've got the A. Oops. Where am I looking? The A, the 2 dots, 2 dots, 1 dot, 1 dot. And she's very good at doing that so that everything matches up nicely. And even though I've made one of these bunnies, I still have to read the directions. I'm not going to lie. Even when I've made 3 of the horses, 2 two of the horses and 2 unicorns, and I still read all those directions as I go. Now here I want to pin. I want to pin clear up to the corner, and then I'm going to use one more pin. The reason I use the flower pins over when I'm sewing, I use Clover's, the little sharp white headed pins. And you can use those too. I just think it's easier to slide these flower pins out. It doesn't take a lot of them because it's not like you're pinning a lot and then coming back. All right, so now we'll just sew this. That's why I'm not getting a good. And you can see that this is kind of curvy, but it doesn't matter because this minky will just stretch and go wherever you want it to go. All right. I really like a thread cutter too. I have a little machine like I take up to the jail or I took camping with us. And it's amazing how you get used to things. All right, so now it says to pin the snout to the face and cheek pieces. All right, so this is my snout. Now, as you know, I haven't marked anything on here, so I will leave this laying here so that I can remember that the C is up here. I did mark just a tiny spot to show that that's the top. And
you have to bring up a little further where they can see.
all righty, so let's see where we're going to put the snout. So if I had marked these, I would have a D on both points and I would have a C in the middle. And as you can see, we're sewing. I did mark just a tiny spot where that center is because I kind of need to know where that center is. And now I'm gonna pin it or clip it. The nice thing about Minky is you can go around these curves and clip as you go. And see, here's my D. So that's where I'm going to start. So I want to pin there. And then I'll just work it in. And I'll just work in the other pieces. And one time this summer, I conned everybody up at the camper into making a minky elephant. Some of them weren't real happy, but they did it. Oops. That's the only bad thing about a clip is sometimes it'll turn that fabric and you have to go back. But I want to come over here. I want to catch this D and line it up first. And now I'll work this back in. Now I'll work it in across.
Do you open the seam when you sew over it?
I do, because it's strong enough anyway, and it just makes it lay a little flatter. So as I'm sewing across the seam, yeah, you can open it up. It really won't matter whatever you do.
And Keisha wants to know what kind of stuffing you stuff with.
I always stuff with this, the royal silk. I like it. I never even knew it existed until I watched Teresa Coates's class with the Minky. If you're going to use something as soft and wonderful as this Minky, use something soft inside too. Now, as you can see, I'm sewing on a curve. So I just take my time and I just have it give as I go. I think I'm going to start with 2 pins at the front. One thing, if you start with pins, I love to clip, but I also like to start with pins. Get my thread out of the way. And again, I start in a little bit and then I'll back it up. And I just work it in. We're just going to work it in as we go around this curve. Whoops. Almost got my pin. And here I'm going to use my stylus to hold those two fabrics together as I work my way around. Again. And I am by no means an expert on these animals. Am I a little bit, I don't know. I'm kind of, and I want to make sure I'm not catching underneath, and it sure wants to. So what am I doing? Sure acts like it wants to catch underneath. And maybe it already did. Let's see. It acts like it caught underneath, but nope, it didn't. So now I'm going to go back and pin those. I am kind of smitten with them, though. I kind of like making them.
Why are you going back?
I wanted, it felt like I had caught my fabric underneath. So I wanted to pull it out and make sure that I didn't. My little snout. I wanted to make sure that I didn't catch that little snout. Yeah, and here I've opened up my seam. Some of these smaller pieces are the hardest to, and you just kind of finagle them in. But if you get a little dart in there, it'll work out too. If you get a large dart in there, you'll probably have to rip. But just a little dart, it works its way out.
Keisha's asking if it takes one full bag of the stuffing for the bunny.
No, those large bags, I do 2 animals with them, the 24 ounce. It would probably take a 12-ounce bag. But they tell you not to stuff them too overly full. You want them snugly. I mean, you want them snugly for a little, especially if you're giving them to a little kid. Or I did find with the horse that you have to stuff it full enough that the head will hold up, will stick up.
Lynn is saying the placement of the cheek piece is confusing.
It is confusing. Okay, you mean to the snout? Oh, the cheek piece to the side? Okay, so
just a little further. So
if you look, there's 2 dots and 1 dot, and then there's A and A. So if you just want to match it up the way that it's marked. So like this one is 2 dots. You can't see my 1 dot anymore because I've opened up that seam. But you wanted to match the A, which is underneath that seam. Remember, we put those 2 A's together. So there's the A. So we're going to put that line right on that seam. And then the 2 dots and the 2 dots. And then what you're doing is you're adding the cheeks to the side.
Right.
See how we're doing it? We're giving this bunny some cheeks. That's what we're doing. So that he has some cheeks. It didn't have me sew the, yeah. So now we've sewn that D, and the C was right here. So we matched up with that. If you weren't using white, you would have had a C written on here and you would have had 2 D's written on here. But instead, I just laid my pattern piece down here so that I could use it as a reference. I also want to mark how far in my my fold is going to be, although I haven't done it yet. But see, there's going to be a fold there. And so I'll hang on to that snout because I want to do that. All right, so it says we want to pin the ears to the face piece. And if you look on this face piece, you can see that it says ear and ear. It doesn't tell you where they end, but it tells you where they begin. All right, so that the dart is facing the face piece. It says, so the dart is facing the face piece. Okay, so we want to pin the ear, or we want to pin the bunny ear to this. And these I'm just going to clip, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew a 1/8 inch seam across there. The more times you sew this ear, probably the better, because some little kiddo is going to be pulling on these ears. So again,
drag the bunny by his ears.
Yeah, the bunny's going to be dragged around by the ears. So if you sew these ears on, and I'll show you when I sew the head together with the ears, I make sure I sew over those ears several times, because there's certain points, the legs, the arms, it just doesn't hurt to. So even though it doesn't say to do this, I'm going to sew a 1/8 inch seam right along the edge.
Ask Lynn if she's okay with her cheeks to the side.
Oh, Lynn, did you get your cheeks to the side? Because we can sure go over that again. You've got your cheeks, which we've sewn A to B like this. So they're all one piece now. And now we just have this piece. We have this piece at the top. We have 2 dots, 1 dot, and A. And that's going to sew onto the face.
And the other side is flipped.
Yeah. What?
Is it the opposite, isn't it? You say the 2 dots are on the other side?
The 1 dot is here and the 2 dots are here.
Right. Okay.
So you can match this up with that seam, which was the A seam. You're going to match up your A seam with the A on the face. And then you're going to match up your 1 dot and 2 dots. So this is the back. So this would be like this. Are we good? So anyway, I'm just going to sew these ears on really quick. I'm just using a 1/8 inch seam just so I catch those ears. Mainly because, like I said, the ears are definitely a stress point. The ears, the arms. So I'm just gonna, and you can zigzag them on. That's what Teresa does with hers, is she zigzags them on, but I figure an 1/8 inch seam is gonna do it too. All right, so now it says to sew the headpiece. I thought we already did the headpiece. Oh no, here's the headpiece. So it says we want to pin and sew the headpiece. And you'll see this was T up here. It was T on both sides. So that T is going to match up with this T. So we're going to clip that right there, because that headpiece is going to sew. And now we're just going to work it around. And see where I've sewn my ears on, it will hold them in place a little more. But I still am going to put some good clips on them. because that ear is a stressor point. Now I'm going to come down here, and this will be my first seam or my first starting point. So I'm going to use some pins. Oh, I know I have pins somewhere. Oh, we'll grab some more. And then we'll just work this in. I'll get rid of that thread. Can't stand threads. They drive me nuts. So we'll just work it in around
Keisha
there.
says she really likes the minky you choose.
Really? We've had a lot of fun picking out Minky. Lord knows if we had an unlimited budget, there'd be a lot more, because man, it's pretty. I really like the stuff. I really like anything that's got a little bit of, oops, let's get rid of that string or we're going to run into it again. I like anything with a little dimension. So here we're going to clip these ears pretty solid here. Because when we hit them, we've got about 4 layers that we're going through, which is not bad because Minky just lets you go right through it. It's not like sewing 4 layers of burlap or something heavy, corduroy, flannel. Okay, now we're going to come over here and we're going to catch this end. And then we're going to piece it all back in. Okay, so now we're going to make all this work in here. And sometimes it doesn't look like it's going to work, but you just kind of piece it in. Like I'll go here in the middle. I'll make this piece fit in.
Keisha's asking how much yardage it takes to use the mint color for the bunny.
Half a yard. This was half a yard. And since I used a coordinating color with this, like the white or any coordinating color, that's why I was able to make it so big. Otherwise, I tend to stay at that 120 level, 120, 125 level. But since I had a coordinating fabric, I was able to. All right. So now we have the head clipped on, as you can see. And I think I'm going to sew on this side because it's got so much more. And I want to make sure I catch those ears, which means I put my pins at the wrong end, which is not a big deal because I'll just change them out. But I like to pick which side I'm going to sew on because this side has the most give, and I want to make sure I catch those. I want to make sure when I hit those ears, I know I hit those ears. So we'll just sew this piece on. And sometimes it is a little confusing, but if you just take a step back and read what she says to sew, like A to B, B to A, and you just look for your marks on your fabric, then it'll all make sense. Because right now I'm just adding the head to the cheeks. And see, the inside kind of got away from me, so I just take my stylus and pull it out a little bit. Okay, so now I'm getting up here to these ears. And I just go forward a little ways, go back a little ways. I really like to catch the ears because some little kid's going to be dragging it by the ears. And nothing would be worse than having one of the ears pop off.
You'd have to go to the hospital.
I know, it would be so traumatic. Yeah, then the bunny has to go to the hospital. And you don't have to catch it in a solid line because you're just strengthening that seam. Okay, let's pull it out underneath. We're kind of working it around. All right. Now we're going to sew that seam open. Now we're hitting the other ears. All right. Then we'll just finish him off. Just slow but sure. Whoa. I say slow but sure, and then my machine takes off. Whoa, what was that? My thread broke for some reason, but I don't know why. I didn't have a pin in there. I don't know. So I guess we'll rethread the machine. When something like that happens, I like to totally rethread my machine because, and I have an automatic needle threader. I don't know why I never use it. Crazy. But I am going to finish off this edge again. All right. And man, there are strings at the end of this. Okay.
You're coming up on an hour. You want to check?
Okay.
You want to take a break?
All right. So as you can see, we have our bunny. We have our bunny. We have our ears. And it says now, let's see. It says that if we're going to be putting in eyes, we want to put them in now. So let's put in the eyes and then let's take a short break. And if you're probably younger than me, but sometimes I just have to stand up and stretch. But I just make a small clip in here because these eyes are big. And then you'll just come in through the front, pop your eye in, and then you'll hear it click. And once it clicks, it's in. And again, I'm going to clip here. I just give it a little hole. Like I said, this stuff will not ravel, but I like to give it a little hole to start that eyeball in. And like I said, I had marked those eyes, so I know right where it goes. And then I'll just click them on. And let me tell you from experience, they don't come off.
Even if you want to.
Even if you're wanting to take them off. So see, our bunny's got a face, he's got eyes, he's got ears. He's pretty darn cute. Alrighty. I'm gonna go back and see. I don't think we were supposed to sew the snout dart yet. But while we take a break, let's take a break, go use the restroom, stand up, stretch, and then we'll be moving on. And we're going to start with the arms and the legs, which are pretty fun. I don't know. They don't take a lot of time. So let's just take a short break.
You should put your purple bunny underneath her.
Oh, we were supposed to sew that shut. So we're going to sew that shut when I get back. Yeah, because I want to put the nose on now too. Okay.
You need a quick one of these.
Where'd you find those? DG? Alrighty.
You ready to start again?
Yeah.
Let me take this down.
All right. So one thing that I missed was we needed to pin and sew the snout piece. No. We need to sew the snout piece closed in the front. Sorry about that. That was my error. So what we're going to do here is, like I said, my white is not marked. So I'm going to mark on here where I want to go to. On the E. So I'm going to mark it on mine with a pen, if I can find a pen. And that's where I'm going to head when I get down to that end. And then I'm going to go back here. But what we're doing is we're sewing this snout shut. Sorry about that. I missed that on the directions. I thought it should have been sewn shut. Once in a while, I just miss things. So what we're sewing is D. No, we're sewing E to D, which is right in here. Remember your D in here? My D on my white is not there. But so we're going to match these two seams up because they'll sure look better if they're matched up. So match them up and clip them. If you feel better about pinning them, pin them. It doesn't matter. And then, so what we're doing is we're sewing the snout shut. When we sew the snout shut, then we can give him a nose. And that nose is optional. You can also put on a felt nose. They gave you a pattern for a felt nose. I kind of like just putting on a squirrely little nose. So we're going to put a couple pins in here to start with. And we're going to sew this snout shut. All right. So you can see, even if you forget something, if it doesn't look right to you, go back in the directions. It's pretty easy once in a while to miss something. But here, I want those seams to match up. And then I'm just going to sew this snout shut. And I'm going to come around here And where I'm headed for is this pin, because that's the end of the fold. So they want you to bring this around.
Where's your Annie's?
Yeah, I shouldn't sew my fingers. And again, if you've never sewn your fingers, then you're pretty lucky. Okay, and we're gonna head
Pull
back.
your hand back a little bit so that you can see where you're stopping. There.
And what I did was I stopped where I had that pin. Well, I pulled the pin out now. So I brought it around, and instead of just coming off straight, I brought it around and gave it a little bit of a deal. Now, I didn't hear that I went back. So I want to catch that again.
Cuddle is machine washable, isn't it?
Cuddle is machine washable.
Don't use
fabric softener. I always wanted to ask Teresa why. I mean, I don't understand that because I don't use fabric softener, but my daughter doesn't sew a load or do a load without using it. So I want to know why. Now, when I'm going to put the nose in, I'm going to put it right at the top of this seam. Or you can put it down a little bit. You can put it down right about here.
Show them on your one that's made.
Now the one that's made, see how I put it up kind of high? And I kind of like it up, and that's right at the top of that seam. And that's kind of where I like it. You can put it anywhere you want. My thought is, I mean, if you were going to put a mouth or anything in, you'd put it lower. So my thought is it's kind of in between the nose or in between the eyeballs up there. But if you want to put the felt nose on that they show, man, more power to you. I am not much of a applique person. You could ask anyone. And again, I'm just going to clip a little hole, and then I'm going to stick my nose in. You can always go back and do these later, but it's sure easier to do it now when you can get at all this stuff. And obviously I didn't clip a big enough hole, but you can work it in. It'll work in. Come on. Maybe it'll work in. Man, I didn't think the nose had that big a...
How much of the coordinating fabric was with the kit?
I think we did 15 inches by
30.
We have them laying around here somewhere. I think it was 15 by 30. So it was
half a yard of the regular.
Yeah, half a yard of the regular. And you could make this bunny and again, we want to put this on, and we're going to put it on till it clicks. And you can literally hear it click. And then I go back around and I turn that nose to where I want it. Now my bunny has a nose. My bunny has eyes. He's alive. All right. So we're going to set this head, ears piece away. And we're going to start making some arms and some legs, which are pretty easy to do. You just want to line up. You want to line up your top. Again, I'm going to put a couple pins in where I'm going to start. It's just easier for me to sew doing that. And I'll put a clip over on this side because I'm going to go clear around. I'm going to teach you a little trick though with this opening. It's not my trick. In all honesty, I've never thought up anything much in my life, but I do listen and learn to people that are smarter than me. And Teresa Coates taught me this, and she said that the lady from Shannon taught her. So when you're making that opening, if you sew it as an L, it will lay inside really nicely.
If you sew it as a what?
I'll show you. Sew it as an L. We'll put one clip in the middle there. Whoops. Yep, that's the bad thing about clips is they'll often turn the fabric. Well, dang it. Okay, so here's one little leg, or one little arm. It's ready to go. Again, I'm done with the arm piece, so I'm going to throw it over there. And here's the other little arm. And you can see both sides say the same thing. They say arm. I've marked the opening, which is relatively the same on both sides. Should be. And as you can see, it's the bottom of the arm, which is cool. Somebody was thinking when they did it. We're going to clip on this side, and then we're going to come down, clip down here, and then we're going to work our way back up. Whoops, that doesn't look like it was clipped even. We're going to work our way back up. I like how the bunny goes together. I like how I've made the kitty. The frog was really easy. The frog was 3 pieces. The only thing that with the frog was it was a lot of clipping. It took a lot of clips to clip it together because you sew a long time when you're sewing them together, but that was kind of cool. Let's see, we've made the elephant, the kitty, the dog, the puppy's a lot of fun. The one that I thought was the absolute hardest was the crocodile. I don't know why, and maybe it was the night when I wasn't really thinking well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing here. I'm going to sew up here, and then I'm going to sew out. All right, so I'm going to make that into an L. I'm going to sew off the deal. Then when I come down here, what I do is I start here and then I back it off and come back on, and then I sew my seam. If you sew those 2 lines, or instead of just coming up to it and ending, it makes that fabric tuck in for you. So it just makes it a little easier. Like I said, I didn't make that up. Teresa Coates taught that. If you ever want to learn a lot about Minky, boy, that lady, Teresa Coates, she knows it. So what I'll do is I'll come up here to this line.
We should file it.
I don't know. I'll come up to this line, and I want it in a needle down position. I turn it and I just sew off the edge. And then back on. Okay. So, and I'll show you how that works when I get them both done. Or when I get this little bunny thing done. And see how I'm starting there. I'm going to sew off the edge. Now she'll sew from the edge on, but I tend to have it gather my fabric if I do that. Or suck it down underneath. So I don't like to do that. Alrighty. And then we'll just sew this little bunny arm. Where's my stylus? And again, sorry if I'm kind of smacking gum, but it's the only thing that keeps my throat going. All right, sew around here. And just make it so it's not hard. I mean, the biggest thing is just to have fun with this, because It's so forgiving. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have a 3/8 inch seam on one side and a 1/4 inch seam on the other. It will all come out wonderful. Okay. So the reason that we did that, see how we sewed that in and sewed that in, is we're going to use that to turn this little leg. Our little arm. I guess it's an arm. Sorry. And as I'm making these smaller pieces, I just use my finger to pull them out. But see how it'll just make that fabric tuck in there, so that when you go to sew that together, it's already tucking in there. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool the way it does it. And we have one little arm. All right, so let's make another arm. And then we're going to want to zigzag the top of them. But we can do them after we do I think we do the feet next. Yeah. So we may zigzag them both at the same time. That way we won't forget to put our zigzag back to straight stitch, which I do almost every time.
Gail says she'd like to do the octopus.
Oh, that would be kind of fun. I just think as long as a person goes in them with a sense of adventure, it's going to be fun. And like I said, I don't know why the crocodile was hard for me, except that night I didn't feel good. And maybe that was the whole problem. Maybe I can't blame it on the crocodile. It's more me. I do know there's some nights in my life that I shouldn't sew. And if I rip twice, I know it's one of those nights. All right. So now I'm ready to go. Especially if I sew the same piece wrong a second time. I know it's time to shut off the light and quit. I do most of my sewing at night because I cut fabric for Margie during the day that I'm not working at the jail. Otherwise, I'm sleeping during the day. I'm kind of a vampire on the first part of the week. Okay, and turn it out. Oops, let's get rid of that big old string. Turn it out through the opening, not through the top, mainly because your opening's a little bigger than the top. And that's going to be your stuffing opening. And we have another arm. Yay!
So the reason it tucks in is you're going to stuff it there and then you're going to whip stitch it closed.
Right. So that's why you like that it just tucks in there. See how you almost can't tell that it's there now. And that's because of that little deal. All right. So now we're going to work on some feet. And the feet are, actually they call them legs. So we're going to work on the legs. Okay, so the leg pieces, we're going to leave this bottom part open. Don't sew that shut or you're going to be in trouble. Okay, so again, I'm going to pin my top. It's kind of weird to teach over the internet because most of the time when we're teaching with people, they're asking questions or they're saying stuff or they're telling jokes or something's going on. So Let's stick a little one in the middle here. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the front of the foot too while I'm here. And we'll probably just do one foot at a time. It doesn't matter whether you start at the the totem or the bop. It doesn't really matter.
Can you use flannel? Sure.
You can use flannel and you can use cotton. As a matter of fact, most of her patterns show the animal made out of cotton.
You need to move up further.
The thing of it is, if you get into cotton, flannel, you need to clip your curves and you need to know that it's not as forgiving as minky. It's not as slippery as minky though either. So it'll be easier to sew because minky likes to slide a lot.
So you use so many clips.
Yeah, that's why I use so many clips. My daughter, like I said, my daughter calls it kindergarten clipping. I don't like to re-sew or rip. So I would rather extra clip. Whoops, what I had. Oh. I would rather extra clip and sew things once than have to sew it more than once. But this little bunny's coming together quickly. And we're going to be putting in a foot pad, so you'll get to see that. I think a foot pad with cotton, I mean, it's not that it can't be done because we've all sewn circles in the bottom of something. It's just not always fun. With minky, I'll show you, it doesn't matter if you sew it perfect or not. Okay, so let's sew this other side.
Paige is saying, thank you, this is very helpful.
Oh, you betcha. Like I said, I really like making these little things. And I think sometimes, and I know with me, if I'm going to do something new, I'm a little nervous of it. So the biggest thing was, we're just trying to show you that you don't have to be nervous of minky. I sewed minky years ago, and I don't remember that it was this nice. I think it's improved a lot. I guess I'm not sure, but I don't remember it being this nice. And again, I'm going to sew my L because it just will make that turn so much easier. Sorry about that. It's all those cigars. If I give up smoking cigars, I'd probably do better. No, I don't smoke cigars. I'm just kidding. All right, let's get rid of the... Okay. We're going to set him aside because we're going to put in the foot pads. And the foot pads are from your alternate fabric. So...
Letitia says, Bobbi, you make this look so easy. And Gail says, this is really great. I hope you all do some more of these.
The nice thing about having this video out there is it's like when I did the nag. Teresa Coates had a video out there, and she does. So if you ever want to do the nag, watch her video. The nice thing about a video is I would sew and then I would stop it. And then I would watch her do it.
You need to move up further where they can see.
I would watch her do it or listen to her do it. And then I would do it. And then I would go back. I gotta have a drink. Sorry. And I could just watch her video and do it as I was doing it. And that was really nice. That's the nice thing about having a video. The other thing is These directions are so well written. They're well written on the nag, who is from a different company. That's from Rustic Horseshoe. But her directions are well written too. But there's a video out there from Teresa on that and the elephant. I also watched the elephant video, and that's the one I was going to have my girls do up at the campground. So I took notes as I watched the video so that anything that could go wrong, I wrote down. And believe me, anything that could go wrong went wrong. Because I had from sewers that had sewn a long time to my granddaughter who was just learning how to use a machine. Luckily, I had my good machine up there and I can turn the speed down. So, but she just plugged along, just slow as can be, and her elephant turned out really cool. And that's the nice thing about Minky too, is your seams don't have to be perfect. So to make your animal perfect. So kids can, I mean, you can get kids involved in it too. That's what I like.
Will you go back?
Because see, if you look at this,
with the 2 clips,
why I start with the two pins. I start with the 2 pins because I'll just show you the difference. If I clip here and I clip here, when I go to put it under my machine, I have to let it go to put it under my machine. Well, then I've lost what I did. So if I pin there, I can pin there and pin here. And then I can put it under my machine with the pins in. And I know it's not going to lose anything when I slide that pin out. That's why I start with pins. Otherwise, I would just use clips totally. But I don't like them to start with because I can't get an honest start.
Sam's asking about the girls at the campground. Is this a sewing camp group?
Well, when it would rain or it would be lousy weather, we would sew. But yeah, we sewed a lot up there.
You need to tell about your camp, what you do, how you have your whole family camp.
Yeah, we have a designated, I mean, our campground is, our sites are always there. Our camper is permanently parked. So we have a whole group of people that are up there. Some people don't like to sew though. Some people think they have to go to the beach every week. I'm not a beachy person. As you can see, I don't have a bikini figure. So I'm not one that's going to the beach very often. All right. So again, now we have the 2 feet done. All right, so now we're going to stick the pads into the feet. And your pads, unless you decided to make your bunny all one color, should be the opposite color. Again, I didn't write on here foot pad because I didn't want it to come through. I did mark my top and my bottom, and now I'm going to mark my sides, or I'm going to mark halfway on the sides, mainly because that just helps a little bit. And I'll just mark that with 2 pins or 2 clips on both of my. So I have the top and the bottom marked. So I line those 2 up. Whoops, I don't want to line up. Most people's are probably marked a lot better than mine. Jeepers. Okay. And then I'll just fold it in half. And that's where my 2 clips will go. So I have all four, I have four points on this. And what I'm going to do on here is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put my two seams together, and then I'll just put a clip over here. And I'm going to put a clip over here. And I'll do that with this one too. It's just another reference point just to help put that little so we just okay. So now we want to oh shoot, I got another long old string. So now we're going to put the foot pad in. And we're going to line up this line, which you probably have a bigger line than me, but I just didn't want to draw. Oops. But you want to put right sides together. So I'm going to put that onto that seam, and I will clip it open. And then I'm going to put this one on this seam back here. And again, I'm going to clip it open. And then what I do is I just line these two babies up. And then I'll pull one and clip with the other one. Same with these two. I'll line them up straight across from each other and clip. And now I'm just going to work this in. The bigger your animal, the easier a lot of these things are. But again, I just use a lot of clips. And work it in. And as slick as it is, sometimes it just doesn't want to slide together. See that one too? And again, I'm going to find my beginning place, and I'll put in a couple of pins, because especially on this, it's going to be hard if I don't have the pins. Now that just doesn't look right. So you go to plan B and you make it look right. I don't know why. Maybe I had it clipped wrong. So we're going to clip it. And we're going to clip it around. But a lot of your little animals will have foot pads. Your horse has them. I think the puppies had them. The elephant has them. That was probably the hardest thing for my ladies to do, was the foot pads on the elephant, because they were not very big. They were about a 3-inch radius or 3-inch diameter. Whoa, I don't know where that clip went. I tend to find clips all over my sewing room because they tend to fly. Okay, so we're going to want a pin. The nice thing about these pins too is it doesn't matter which side I sew from, I can easily pull them out. And then we're going to put another clip in. So now we're going to sew this foot pad in. This is the bunny's foot pad. I know they always tell you to sew from the bottom. I like to sew from this top because I want to make sure I don't have any gathers or gives, or so I'll usually sew from the top. Move this stuff over. And again, this is why I use the pins first, because I can set this down right on these pins and I don't have to, whereas if I had it totally all clipped, I would have to let some of it go in order to do it. And I just am not willing to let it go. And I guess we wouldn't need to back up because we're going all the way around. Let me find my stylus. And we're just going around. And we're catching on something. Oh, my clip. Somehow my clip got caught up underneath there. I always like to sew with needle down because then if I have a problem like that, I don't lose where I was. Okay. And we're just sewing around, and you just feel with your fingers and make sure that it's all lining up right underneath. We send a fuzzy piece to everybody if they want to use it for the tail, for the bunny tail. I am going to just make my tail out of the white C3 because it'll match the inside of my ears. You can do whatever you want, but I'll show you how to make the bunny tail. So you can make it out of whatever you want. Some people will want a fuzzier tail. And like I said, just have fun with this. When you're sewing around this foot pad, it does not have to be a super straight or a super perfect, even all the way around. As you can see, I do sew pretty slow, but yeah, and then of course it races. But when I get done, I'll show you. It's not totally evenly sewn all the way around. And when I turn this foot pad out, it'll look great. That's the great thing about Minky. Oops. That's the one I put back in. It doesn't like it. And we'll just sew up to where we started, and we'll back up. All right, so if you look underneath, see how it's wide here, it's narrow here. It's not real even, it's not real straight, but it also isn't going to break. But I'm going to come out here, I'm going to turn him right side out. And see how great that little foot pad looks? You can't tell. You can't tell that there was some uneven sewing that went on. It just looks great. That's the fun of Minky, is look how great that little foot pad looks. It didn't look that great on the sewing side, but it sure looks good on the other side. So that's what makes it nice. I think my problem is, what is the deal then? I don't know. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and we're going to put this little foot pad on. And we're going to match it up again. We're going to start at the seam. I don't start sewing at the seams. I try to start somewhere in the middle. I guess it doesn't matter, but all righty. I'm going to make sure that goes together good. It does. So we'll line those up. And now we're just going to piece it together. But it doesn't have to be sewn perfect on the inside, which is so weird for a quilter, because we've all been told to get those points to match, to sew an even seam, make sure that everything is right. Otherwise, it's not going to look good. And with Minky, it's just the opposite. Sit back, get a bevy, start sewing, and have fun and enjoy it. And that's kind of why I like sewing with this Minky, is I don't have to use as much brain power when I'm sewing with this Minky as I do when I'm piecing a quilt together. I started sewing one together at work the other night, and I don't know, my mind wasn't on it, so I just quit. I was afraid that I would be ripping, and I don't like to rip. So, all right, so we're going to piece this together, and then we're going to go over and on the other side, we're going to put it in a couple of pins, and that's where we'll start sewing. But like I said, if you don't have flower pins, you can use the clover pins. You can use the, boy, there's all kinds of pins nowadays. There's the, Margie, help me out. What kind of pins are there out there? The wonderful pins, or
Magic pins.
the magic pins. There's all kinds of pins. I also learned that you can iron Minky. They say you just use a pressing cloth and a lighter temperature. I guess I don't know why you would iron Minky. I mean, you could, if you were going to make this out of cotton or flannel, I would press those ears when I got done. I guess that's the difference. I don't know why you would iron Minky. I don't know. But they say you can do that. Whoops. See, I didn't give myself enough room, and I'm going to catch that clip again. Oops, and I'm on the wrong side.
Now your clip will be close again.
Is it too close? Well, then we'll just pull it. It should be all right. It's all kindergarten clipped anyway.
Producer says, I hope you do this for all the other pattern kits.
Well,
you never know.
Teresa Coates has, like I said, she has out the elephant and the horse. So you can always go on YouTube, and if you just go Minky and elephant, or Ellie the elephant, I think that's how I found it. Because unfortunately, Teresa's on at noon, and I'm not up at noon on Tuesday. I'm still sleeping because I don't go to bed till almost 6. So I don't get to see her live. And I don't even know how I came across her making them, except. And the scarves, we did a video on the scarves, but that's going to be my go-to Christmas present this year, is scarves. Because who doesn't, I mean, we live in Nebraska, so who doesn't need a scarf in Nebraska? As a matter of fact, our mom lives with us, and she gets really cold, and I can see her wearing a scarf in the family room, because Margie and her are cold-blooded, and I'm hot-blooded. So
she's making us Minky blankets.
Yeah. Yeah. I already made Margie a Minky blanket. I believe I made our mother one too, but it was too heavy in weight. They are kind of heavy in weight for her to lift up and down. Okay, so again, we want to check underneath and make sure that we didn't get too close anywhere, but we didn't. But you can see it's an irregular sewing on here. But when we turn this little foot, that pad will look awesome. And I just turn it with my finger. You can use a chopstick. I also have a turning tool that I use too. But now we have the little feet. Okay, so now we're going to zigzag. But the back feet are different than the front feet. We're going to put seam to seam on them because they're going to go forward. They're a little foot that's going to go forward. So we're going to go seam to seam on them and open them up. That's what they call it, is open them up. And I'm going to zigzag these now. Let's see. And again, I want to get to a really big zigzag. And we'll see if I remember this time to take it out as zigzag. If I don't, it'll be the 100th time. All right, we'll get this other little foot and we'll get the little arms. Let's start a new one. Because I do that a lot. It's a very bad habit.
Now, what do you have to do on the arms? So you sew them.
The arms are just like, I mean, the arms are just regular. They aren't opened up. Because otherwise, if you open them up, they'd be like this. And you could, I mean, if you like that look, I mean, you could make them like this, coming off of the bunny, but they just have them like this. So it's like a little hand. So we're just going to sew them just like we did the bunny ears. We're just going to sew them shut. And this just flattens them. Again, if you weren't here for the bunny ears, this just kind of flattens them out and hooks them on, or flattens them out so that when we hook them on, they'll be easier to hook on. You don't have to worry about them as much. Okay, so while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to push my number 1 and I'm going to get it back up to 3.2. Okie doke. All right, so the leg pieces. Okay, so now we need to fold the tummy piece at the dart. And again, we're done with the tummy. So we're going to fold it at the dart and see how I've marked.
Up.
See how I've marked that line all the way up, because that's where they want you to sew to. So I'm going to stick a pin in there just so I remember that. So this is pretty much strictly pins on this one because it's not very big. At least the opening part is not very big. You don't have to worry much about this. But so we'll sew that dart. And then we're just going to aim for the top of my pin. Whoa. I don't know what happened there.
You don't have your eyelets.
Yeah, that's probably the problem. Okay, let's pick up. Maybe I dropped off. I probably dropped off ahead of the end. Now it doesn't like it at all. Most machines, including mine, do not like to sew air. Okay. So what you did was you just sewed from K up to the top here. You just sew it better than I did. Alrighty. Now it says to pin the arms to the tummy piece. So if you look on here, it shows you where your arms are. So you know that this is the neck seam. So we want to pin our arms on so that they face up. So we're going to pin one arm over here. or actually we're going to clip them. And I'm going to sew them again. Because there's another stress point, is the arms and the legs. And we'll put the other little arm on the other side. And I always lay it out to make sure that it's right once I put them on. But we'll put the other little arms on. And that goes in where it says arms. And we're just going to give that a quick 1/8 inch seam. So that it catches those arms.
Another one, would you reinforce the arms?
As I'm sewing the tummy to the back, I will reinforce the arms. Yeah, absolutely. Because the arms are another dragging. Yeah. But right now I'm just kind of hooking them on. They say to just pin them on. What is my problem? They say to just pin them on. But it's just as easy to sew them on. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing with the feet. We're going to hook the feet in here too. Okay, so it doesn't matter what foot is what, they're the same. But you do want to make sure that they're going to face forward. So this is the tummy. You want to make sure that this seam is forward you want to make sure the feet are. So you're doing them heel up. Oh, I have arthritis in my hand once in a while. So yeah, you want to do them heel up. All right, so let's just sew that little guy on there. And again, just an 1/8 inch seam just to catch that. And this isn't in the pattern. I just do this because it's easier to me than just pinning them in. Some of these things I've just, okay, and again, so we want to do, let's get rid of all this string. And we're going to do the other one with the forward. So we're going to put heel up. And we're going to mark it on here. We're going to put him on here. All righty. Where's my stylus? Okay. Now we need to sew the back pieces together from J to K. Wait a minute.
Pull up a little more so they can see where you're at.
So I'm thinking that we needed to do the J. I'm thinking this dart has to be sewn together first. I think that's where I run into problem the last time because it didn't say anything about that. So we're going to do it. Because otherwise we can't sew from J to K. Well, maybe we don't. Let me look at the piece. Oh, no, we don't. Okay, so we want to sew the back pieces together from J to K. So this is J and this is K.
Right sides together.
Right sides together. And we're going to sew this together like this.
Up, up, up.
Well, I don't want to do that. I want to clip on that end. That just doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, why don't we take a quick break and I'm going to look at this and I'm going to figure this out because that doesn't make sense. So let's take a quick break. We'll run to the restroom and we'll get this figured out.
Can you look on your other one?
No. J to K would be that. And then you have the side. It doesn't even make sense. Oh, yeah. Okay. But I just think this dart has to be sewn first. Yeah, we're going to have to sew the dart first.
Do you need to run?
Hmm?
You need to run?
Oh. Are we on?
Are you ready?
What is this? Oh. Yep.
Pam Morrow says she loves online classes because there's no line at the bathroom.
That's right. That's the truth. Except here, Margie and I have to shove each other away. All right, so we don't do that dart yet. I did read ahead and we do it at a later time. So we're just sewing from J to K. And as you can see, J to K. This one's not marked, but it's J to K. Alrighty, so we're going to go, we're just going to sew this seam. Ah, where's my stylus? But every bit of this bunny is forgiving. So as long as you catch a 1/4 inch or a 1/8 of an inch, Minky is not going to ravel. That's the nice thing. If you're using a different fabric like cotton or okay, so now we want to sew and pin the back pieces to the tummy pieces with the legs and arms. All righty. All right, so we have the neck up there, so we have the sides. We have the arm here, so we know that that's correct. So we're clipping across that. And we're going to line up this seam to this seam. And then we're just going to work these babies in.
Oh my goodness, Ruth Ginsburg just passed away.
Who's that?
The Supreme Court judge.
Ooh, another new judge. Huh. She was really ill, though, for a long time.
She has been.
I don't think she's been sitting the bench for quite a
I
while.
don't think she has.
Oh, I thought she was ill. Okay. And we're going to work up our way back up over on this side. So we'll start at the top, and this is where I'm going to start sewing. So again, I'm going to pin a couple of pins here. Like I said, this is just how I do it. If you want to just clip, clip. If you want to just pin, pin. There's a lot of people that like pins better than clips. I've just really gotten hooked on these clips. You kind of have to maneuver it because all of a sudden you're getting all this stuff in the middle. You got your legs in the middle, you got your arms in the middle. Let me tell you a mistake I made so you don't make it. I thought on the horse, well, I'll just stuff the legs and arms ahead of or right when I get them sewn so that I don't have to do them later. Well, then I figured out that you had to stuff all those stuffed arms and legs inside that body. It was not a good thing. So usually when somebody's writing a pattern, like the ladies that write them, they have a reason that they have you wait till the end. That was the reason. It did not work well. I just thought I was saving myself some time.
We actually made more time.
Yeah, it actually took me more time. Okay, so now, as you can see, I'm sewing where the arms are. So I'm going to sew and back up and sew and back up because these arms are going to take a lot of stress. And I'll do the same thing when I hit down at the legs. Now the rest of this I can just sew. And you can feel when you get to the little legs and I mean, you can feel when you get to them. Okay, so here's the little legs. So as I'm doing them, I'm going to do the same thing. It doesn't tell you that in the pattern, but I've had little kids and I've had to repair things. So it's always nicer to do it right the first time and to have to repair. All right.
Pam asked, did you sew up the dart? No, you did not.
No,
right?
I did not, because I noticed on the next page it says to sew the dart. Sometimes things make more sense to me. Again, if you just read the pattern and not try to second guess these ladies, it goes a lot better. And again, I'm on the other side. I'm double sewing well, actually, it's about triple sewing by the time you sew back and forward and back and forward. We'll get up here to the arms. And I don't know how they figure all this out. I mean, I look at these pattern pieces and I think, well, that's really funky. I mean, I think it's cool how she put cheeks on the little bunny instead of just making the face. And again, I'm on the arm, so I'm double, triple sewing it. All righty. All right, so we're going to pin the head and cheeks to the tummy and back. And she says the easiest way to do this is to turn the head and cheeks right side out, which we have them right side out, before you pin the seams. Okay, so we're looking for the neck seam, which is right up here. We're looking for the top, and we're going to line up the center. We're going to line up the center right here. Because this is the front. I mean, if you try and have it make sense to you, this is the front. So line up the seam with the line and clip it. And then we're going to want to line up this seam, these two seams. Whoops. They don't seem to want to line up very well. Oh, that's because it's not maybe my center. So let's line up this seam. And let's line up this seam.
Those are the seams on the back?
Those are the seams from the tummy.
From the tummy.
And then we're gonna, there should be a center line on here. We're gonna work that in, and we're gonna work this neck in. And again, I'm clipping a lot, but
Scoot up a little.
well, where are we going to? Well, this shows it to go clear over to here. I don't see that it'll do that. Okay, that's probably my problem. This seam probably. So let's use a couple of pins here.
Showing the door, it is, remind me, are these sold as kits? Pattern is a pattern included?
What?
I think it should have been sewn in by now. Gail, I'm not understanding what Gail's saying. Showing the door, it is on the first line. I think it should have been sewn. The dart? Is she talking about?
You mean the J dart? The J dart is on the next page.
The what?
The J dart is on the next page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The dart is on the next page, Gail.
Yeah.
And Pam, hang on a second.
Yeah, and just work this in. I guess these don't line up the best. I was thinking, now the center one has to line up. The center one has to line up, but the other seams are not. But that center one lines up, and then you just work them around. What was the question about the?
Gail says, sewing the dart, it says for the P's in. Sew the dart at K.
Right. We see when we get down here to where we're sewing the back together, we'll pin and sew the dart.
Okay. So just say that a little louder.
Yeah, when we pull the head back out of the body. See, right now we have the head tucked into the body. And that's how we're sewing this in. When we get the head out of the body, that's when we're going to sew this back together. We're going to sew those J darts then. I don't know. I don't know why it's such a big deal. We sure could have done it it sure would have made more sense to do it back then. But the biggest thing is to line up your ends, line up your center with this one seam, and then everything else just kind of works its way in. This seam is kind of in the middle. As you can see, this seam's kind of in the middle of these two. And you just kind of work them in. Oops, dropped my clip. Just like over here. This seam down here is kind of in the middle of these two. But this seam lines up with this line. Well, it did. I've been kind of pulling it around. But this seam is supposed to line up with that line. But your bunny head should be tucked inside of the body. And now we're just sewing the head onto the neck part of the body. It's kind of weird. But it'll all come out. Okay, so let's sew this together. And this is kind of a handful. So you kind of want to hold on to the top. Hold on to this and kind of keep it out of your way. And this is one of those places where it's kind of nice when it's a little forgiving because come on. So I'm just kind of holding up on this body. I kind of grab a hunk of it and hold up on it, but I'm also feeling with these fingers to make sure that there isn't a hunk of this getting underneath. And then you kind of finagle it around because there's a lot of fabric under there. And you just kind of work your way around. When I sewed the nag, it said to double sew every seam. And I did that on the first one that I made. I didn't after that. This polyester thread is strong. I just don't think you have to do that. I don't know. I guess I think a lot of these toys are made in China that our kids have, and they're not sewn near as well as what we're sewing right now. So now this was a funky seam, so I really want to go back and see if oh, jeepers, this stupid string. I want to make sure that I caught it all, which I didn't do very good right in here. You can see. And I didn't do very good right in there. So those two places, I'm going to want to have to go back. I'm going to want to go back and catch them. And what I'm going to do is sew on the opposite side so that I know I caught them. It's about an 1/8 of an inch there, but I just, even if it's just to reinforce it a little, I'm going to resew.
You've included nose and eyes with the kits, right?
Yes. We not only included them with the kits, but we included them in your pattern so you can make two. Yeah. So there I went back and I reinforced that one. This one is probably worse. I don't know how I did so poorly on that one. But it happens. Like I said, these are supposed to be non-stressful, so. Okay, let's see if we got it better. Okay, so now we've got it better. All right, so now we're going to pop the bunny's head back out and see how we got the bunny's head hooked onto the body. And now we just have the guts. So we're going to turn it inside out because it's sure going to be easier to sew inside out. All righty. Now it says to sew those J seams, which doesn't even make sense to me. But like I said, that's why they make the big bucks. So, and where I'm starting out there, I'll just start with a pin there so that I know. And I'm just going to sew that shut. Yeah, that just doesn't even make sense. It sure would have been easier before.
And maybe this is one of the places where you vary from the pattern.
Yeah, you could. I rarely do that because I don't know.
There's a reason.
Because there's a reason why I don't make the big bucks. Okay, so we sewed the one J shut and it looks good. So now we're going to show the other J shut. See, and then you're going to sew all that. Okay. One thing, it'll tell us where the tail goes. All righty. Can you feel the bunny's getting really close? The bunny is getting really close. He almost looks like roadkill.
She's asking, would you recommend sewing those darts before?
I think I would do it before.
Why don't you get to the end and then see?
Yeah.
And then when you
I almost think it would. I almost think it would have been a little easier. One thing, you wouldn't have to pack all this around as you're sewing it. I don't know. I mean, I really think it would be easier to sew it before. All righty. Now, guess what? We're on the last seam. Is that not incredible? So now we're going to hook that together. See, we're going to sew this back again. We're going to sew it in an L again. See, and to me now, we're going to have to start past where that J seam went together so that we make sure we catch all that. So I'm going to start I'm going to start back here because I want to make sure I catch all those seams where we just did those J seams. I want to make sure we got them. But yeah, I really think that dart would be better served doing it. And here again, we're leaving the stuffings open. This is where this is where you're going to stuff this little bunny.
His little body.
His little body. And we're sewing his head together. Yeah, some of them are weird the way they go together. This one I think goes together just pretty darn easy. I mean, the only really hard place is around that neck. Other than that, it's just pretty simple to go together. But again, I'm going to start down on that seam and I'm going to go across that little butt, I guess you would say. And as I did before, I'm using this hand to hold up. Okay. And then we're going to sew the little L. We're going to do the same thing down here.
Gail says he's coming along nicely, and it's a really fun project.
It really is. This little bunny is a lot of fun.
We aren't out of patterns, I don't think.
No, I think we have a few left. All right. And now we're sewing the bunny's head shut, and that's pretty much the bunny. But I'll show you how to do the tail. And then I will show you how, oh, my hand gets arthritis in it when I hold it too long. Old age. And again,
wait to make one, and
again, I want to check this back, and this needs to be sewn a little better. And a lot of that is holding on to all this fabric. I'm not doing a good job of holding it up. I'm sorry, Margie, what? Man, I have strings everywhere. Usually when I sew, okay, so we did good there. Okay, so there's my opening.
would you not recommend the stiletto?
Would I?
When you have all that bulk in your hand?
Well, you only have so many hands. Although I have been known to stuff things into my mouth and use my mouth as my third hand. Um, no, a stiletto would have made that go together a lot better. Sometimes I just forget to use it.
You need to
A,
double up a little.
a stiletto is new to my sewing world, so sometimes I forget to use it. And when I use it, I'm always really like, man, that's cool. But my problem is I've never used one before until I started sewing with Minky. You know, I've seen them sell them and I've thought, man, what would I need that for? Now I use it when I'm trying to match up seams. All right. See there? Our little bunny is roadkill. He's all dead. He looks like roadkill. All righty. So I'm going to show you how to do the tail. I'm just going to make my bunny. I'm just going to make mine out of the white. If you want a fluffy tail, I'm sure we sent Fluffy to everybody. Oh,
We did.
if I can get off,
I think.
I can get my needle out. Okay. This is not rocket science. I mean, if I can do it, because I'm not a hand sewer. I almost asked Margie to do it, but she was sleeping that night. So you just go around, and my thought is the smaller the stitch, the more it's going to gather. And I leave a hunk at this end, and I just sew around. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I just and like your thread, if you see my thread, I'm using a light blue thread. That's what I've used to make every single Minky animal. I don't worry about thread. As a matter of fact, I don't even worry about it when I'm sewing the thing shut.
We've
Because
got a darker color in your bobbin, don't you?
No, it's that blue.
Oh, okay.
Because it doesn't show at all. I do want to show you the reason I bought the Bianni. And then, like I said, I'm trying to learn to use it more. I'm even using it. Man, I have a burr on my needle. That's pretty bad on a new needle. So if you want a fuzzy tail, or I just wanted one that will match my bottoms of my feet. But yeah, I think this bunny is a fun project because it's really not, it's definitely not her most difficult pattern.
Well, and in 2.5 hours, you've got it sewn, and now you're
That's
ready
right.
to sit in the TV and
Yes,
stuff.
and that's the nice thing is, okay, so, and then I just start pulling it, and I'll pull it from both ways. Well, I will if I can figure it out. Okay, and then I grab a little stuffing because the bunny tail has to have some stuffing in it. Probably not that much, but some. And now I'll just start pulling it shut. And like I said, it's a nice thing about this thread is it is so strong. Oops. Except if you pull it.
What was that? Polyfill Royal what? Royal Silk?
Royal silk, yeah. And once I get the bunny tail kind of the way I want him, I just tie it shut. I mean, I just make a knot. And my bunny tail's ready to go on. And you can sew your bunny tail on now. I mean, see, it doesn't have to look spectacular. I mean, I don't suppose bunnies, but the nice thing is you can pretty well find where it goes because you've got this little deal back there. So I'll just cut this string off. I'll just sew this little, and I just find the hole, stick my bunny tail on, and I just start catching it underneath. I mean, it doesn't have to be tough.
Oh, do you need a stabilizer on top and bottom of Cuddle to embroider on the bottom of the feet? Didn't Teresa just show some embroidery?
Teresa just showed that, and I think what she said to use, yes, because she tried it with and without stabilizer, and boy, it puckered bad without it. As a matter of fact, I think she used 2 sheets of tearaway. But if you go out on embroidery, it, what is, I Love Minky, the Facebook page, I Love Minky, or it may be out on YouTube too. Oh yeah, I Love Cuddle. They have their own Facebook page, but she just did a big embroidery thing. But boy, wouldn't that be cute to embroider something on the bottoms of the feet? You bet. That would really be cute. But I was thinking she used the tearaway, I think. And I think she used two pieces of it. And then she used on top, the water soluble stuff. She used the water soluble stuff on top so that it didn't pull. But she didn't take it off with water. I mean, I did some embroidery too, or I've done some embroidery, not a Minky, but I always use water to take that off. She says that it turns gummy if you do that. I had never heard that. I mean, I guess maybe it did, but she just sat there and picked and picked and picked till it was all off. Jeepers creepers. That's a lot of work. But yeah, she used the water soluble on the top, and she used the tearaway on the bottom. And she showed, because I watched that video, and I think it's out on YouTube, Embroider on Minky. I think you'll find her video out on, because she usually loads them up on YouTube after she's done.
Does she load them up on Teresa or under Shannon?
I just always go out there and search for like Embroider on Minky.
On Minky or Cuddle?
Well, it probably is Cuddle, because she's a Cuddle specialist. Okay, so there's my bunny tail. I can finagle it. I can make it look however I want. And since I have an opening, well, I think I have an opening. Somewhere there's an opening. I'm going to take it in there and I'm going to knot it. Dang it, I have a burr on this needle. I hate that.
You show them the fuzzy bunny tail and purple bunny.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to knot it in here. But you could easily hide a knot in this Minky. But here, I want to show you. Let me get rid of that. This is what I really like about the stylus, is a lot of these threads will get matted down in here. And you just take this stylus over those threads and it just pops them up. And pretty soon, you can't even see where there was a seam, especially on your hand seams. So the next thing that you'll do is the bunny ears do not get stuffed. We sewed them on, we sewed them shut. But each of these little arms and legs will get stuffed. And you just stuff in stuffing. And like I said, you don't want it so thick that it's hard because you've made this soft little animal. And I just use my finger to run him around. And then I'll show you how to sew this baby shut, this one arm. And then I really think you can take it off from there. Unless you want to see him stuffed, but it's pretty. But you just do the arms. But yeah, this is like Margie said, once I get to this point, now I'm sitting in front of the TV with my feet up. I mean, but I just use my finger to work that stuffing around.
I did post the video.
And see
link.
how nice this all tucks in there? See how it's all tucked in there? That's what I like about what I learned from her. So let's see if we've got enough thread here. Oh yeah, we've got enough thread to do this, I believe. Oh heck, let's make sure. There's nothing worse than not having enough thread. I should get another needle since this one has a burr. And you probably thread needles a lot faster than I do too. Oh, jeepers. I should have threaded more than one needle. I threaded the one before the class so that I wouldn't be embarrassed. Now I can't get this one to thread. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I put the link for the embroidery video in the comments here.
Perfect. All right. All right. The nice thing about Minky is it'll hide everything. Oh, shoot. Let's do it the right way.
Lynn Parker said, Bobbi, you are very helpful. Thank you.
Well, like I said, it's supposed to be fun. And if it's not fun, then there's no sense doing it. So this little arm is done, and I come in and I'll just catch up right up here.
Sarah said she's going to be making Nutty and Crocodile at the next week at her retreat.
Oh boy, you'll have to tell me if I was just having an off day on the crocodile. Or if it's really a...
What a fun thing to do at retreat.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Everybody will be so excited. But yeah,
are
you
you
just...
really trying to catch the edge, or what are you?
I'm just catching right, and it doesn't really matter. I'm catching down. See, it's already turned under. So I'm just catching down a little bit. Teresa uses a ladder stitch where she goes in, and oh god, that needle. She'll go in like this, and then she'll go underneath, and it's what we used to call an old hemming stitch because you kind of run under the fabric.
Letitia is talking about the frog. She thinks it's the easiest.
Oh, it is. It's only got 3 pieces. Unless you make the crown. I didn't make the crown. I just wanted a frog.
Well, everyone's thanking you for the link, and then they appreciate you doing the tutorial.
You bet. And see, if you go back with your finger, you're not even going to see where this seam was.
Pam says there's probably no crocodiles where you're from.
No, thank the Lord. Those things, I think that would scare me a lot. Okay. And then if I'm going to knot it off, I knotted it off and I just come out here, pull it out, and clip it off. Alrighty. And then if you take your stylus over that, over where I just sewed and on down and on up. You can't even tell that there's a seam in there. See? I love Minky. Obviously, because I think I have almost a whole zoo now. I haven't done the eagle yet. That's my next project. But yeah, it's just so nice because now you can't even tell that there was a seam there.
Show your hat and your.
And it's soft. So this was my project this afternoon. I decided I wanted to do minky mittens with two different minky. Although I really wish now that I had used two totally different minkies. I mean, they kind of need to go together with the cuff. But, and then here's the hat. And it's got little braided arms. And then it, of course, is reversible too. But wouldn't it be fun with something totally fun on the inside? But I don't know. It gets really cold here in Nebraska. And we just thought, what better thing? And this took 2.5 yards. It took a half a yard of each fabric. So, you know, if you have a half a yard at home and you're loving it, you can make you a hat and gloves.
Sarah said, is that a bomber hat?
It is a bomber hat.
You can flip the camera up so they can see you, maybe.
Can you?
Oh, it's upside down.
Oh, well, can you flip back to that one?
I'll flip back to it, but it may be fuzzy still. So.
Oh, sorry. So, yeah. So you can tie it underneath. You can put your flaps up on top and tie it up on top. And I'm not kidding you. I started these at 2:00. Well, I think 1:30. And I was totally done with everything, even cutting out the pattern. Oh, I bet that does a lot for the hair. But I was totally done with it to get here a little after 4. So it was fun. And it's so soft. You know, I'm thinking I might have to wear one of these to the jail. Probably not blue. I'm not sure the sheriff would like me wearing blue, but I think I could make me a brown one or a rabbit. All righty. So if you have any extra questions, you can always let us know. Otherwise, you would just keep continuing to stuff. You would stuff the other arm, stuff the legs, and then you just stuff the body.
Letitia said she would put a ball on the top of her hat. A bunny tail.
Yeah, you could put that. I mean, now that you know how to make that little ball, yeah, you just put a ball on the top. Yeah, it's kind of a funky hat. I don't know. And I made it in O'Neill colors. I don't know. So, but yeah, so you just
post pictures of their bunnies.
Absolutely. Let's post pictures of the bunnies. Let's have a bunny and see. This was the regular tail. And this is if you use the fuzzy. The fuzzy is a little fuzzier. But I thought if he had the bottoms of his feet were that and the bottoms of his ears, that I should just do it the same way. So, but it's not very funky. This is more funky with this. And then the little snout. But all righty. So again, you just do the arms, the legs, and stuff the body. And then we want to see pictures of your bunnies. All right. We'll see you Monday night. Or Margie will.
Is that bunny for your daughter? Somebody asked.
I don't have.
Her name is Brooke.
Oh, she did? If she fixes my phone. Does she want to stuff him? All right.
Thank everybody for coming.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming. Again, if you just take the stylus and go along the edge, but you bet. Thanks everybody for coming, and I hope you enjoy this video. It's from Quilter's Candy Shop in O'Neill, Nebraska, and we appreciate your patronage every week. So have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.